What's up everyone, Darcblade here, bringing you another Mass Effect 3 multiplayer revamped guide, where I go back and look at the various classes who have changed since their original videos. The changes are normally due to gameplay changes within the Mass Effect 3 multiplayer. In this episode we're going to be going over one of the original classes in the game, thanks to a change to Incinerate, and that is the Human Engineer. The original build I used with the Human Engineer was a very basic and straightforward build. It would use Overload for removing shields, Incinerate on armoured opponents, and the combat drone as an enemy distraction. It did not take advantage of any of the tech combos, and all in all was very simple. While the old build is still viable, especially if you like to rely on your weapons over your powers, I believe that the class can be more effective if you take advantage of how quickly the Human Engineer can chain together fire explosions and tech bursts. Now I tend to use the following build. Remember that the builds I use are for the harder difficulties in the game. Firstly, I ignore Combat Drone, as I will be relying solely on Overload, Incinerate and Alliance Training for damage, and my fitness for my defense. Also, I'm not a fan of abilities that set up something I cannot control directly, as normally in this case the Combat Drone is a very inefficient AI. Next, I max out Incinerate, putting points into freeze combo over armor damage. This is because I will be using cryo rounds with my weaponry, thus the Human Engineer can take advantage of the freeze combo talent. If no cryo rounds are available, then armor damage is the better option. Next, I take burning damage for a damage over time effect. However, if you cannot get the 200% cooldown bonus, take recharge speed, as this will be needed. Lastly, I take radius over damage, as this means I can set up multiple opponents close together for fire explosions. With Overload, I've changed the ability to focus on area of effect, or AoE. Taking both chain overload talents means that you can affect multiple opponents, setting them all up for tech bursts in a single overload. Neuroshock is an added bonus when fighting weaker foes, but again, if you cannot get the 200% cooldown timer, then take recharge speed instead. With Alliance Training, these are down to personal preference normally. I would normally go for increasing all power damage, and with rank 6, I would take weapon damage. Like I've said multiple times already, if you cannot reach that 200% cooldown bonus, then take weapon weight instead. Lastly, I max out fitness to give me extra health and shields. I ignore the melee talents as they are not as useful for the Human Engineer in the harder difficulties. As for weaponry, I go with something that allows you to get the 200% cooldown bonus, so you can quickly set up and set off the tech combos in quick succession. As for the permanent gear slot, take something to either help with your cooldown timer, tech abilities, or failing that, your survivability. Now, like I mentioned, the main function of this build is to focus on creating and setting off as many tech combos as you can. The changes to fire explosions and cryo explosions since the game's release, you can now activate them regardless of if an opponent dies or not. All the tech combos now work like so. If you hit an opponent with a tech ability, in the Human Engineer's case it could be hitting them with Incinerate or Overload, follow that up with another direct damaging ability, will create a fire or cryo explosion, tech burst in the case of Overload. This will deal extra damage to the initial target, but any other opponent nearby too. The various combos can also be activated by teammates. Now, on top of the extra damage and the AoE damage of your combos, you and your team will also benefit from the bonuses of your Incinerate and Overload, with debuffing armoured targets with Incinerate and easily removing shields and barriers with Overload. Adding cryo rounds to your weaponry will also allow the Human Engineer access to cryo explosions, as well as the buffs cryo abilities give. With all this in mind, I tend to stick to the following rotation. Firstly, it depends on your target, if they have armor, shields or barriers. If they have normal health, then I go with whatever you feel like. So you start off by hitting a target with Overload if they have shields, or Incinerate if they have armor. Follow that up with the second ability to create your first tech combo, and then follow that up again with the first ability again to create the second tech combo. Now, a mix-up you should add, especially when it comes to armoured targets or targets without any shields, is that firing off a few rounds of your weapon with cryo round consumables means that you will be able to chill or even freeze the targets. after which you should fire off Incinerate to create a high damaging cryo explosion thanks to the freeze combo talent in the Incinerate talent tree. After which you continue as normal, so you would cast Overload to create a fire explosion and then back to Incinerate to create a tech burst, and so on. The biggest thing you need to be aware of is that you need that 200% cooldown bonus, as you only get a brief window to create these tech combos. So fire off your second ability ASAP when creating combos, or you will miss out, resulting in a reduction in your DPS. Now, if you do not like to use combos, then I would suggest checking out the old video, as it favours straightforward playstyles and relies on having decent weaponry. I'll leave a link down in the description below where you can check it out. Anyway, I've been Darcblade, bringing you my Mass Effect 3 multiplayer revamped guide to the Human Engineer. Hope you enjoyed the video, thanks for watching, subscribe and like for more.